Hey everybody, it's a warm but kind of overcast and rainy day here in Chicago. It's Saturday, the 13th of October, and this is the latest installment of my Robert Zemeckis series. This being the time for his 1994 film Forrest Gump, which won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Tom Hanks. Now, this movie... Let's see now. It was my favorite movie of that year. Yes, I liked it even more than Pulp Fiction. It was my number 4 film of the 90s, out of the best movies of the 90s. And it's nestled quite comfortably in my top 20 films of all time, so naturally I like it quite a bit. As some of you who have been watching me for a long time know that I used to do these director series with a partner. Her name was Victoria. She went by V Rose Be Happy. And she mentioned at one point that her 3 favorite movies of all time were Inception, The Silence of the Lambs, and Forrest Gump being the very favorite of all. So I asked her if she wanted me to convey any particular thoughts on the film for you guys, and so I'd like to read what she sent me. She said, "I think it's a unique and comical look at American history through innocent eyes. It's one of the most quoted films because these statements are great mantras, encouraging and heartwarming. There's a little bit of everything in there, drama, war, lots of comedy, some tragedy. It's a story of life with the main character a minor player in the big scheme, but actually affects quite a lot." And the point there that Forrest has an effect on a lot of people's lives is certainly the case. It's a message, of course, that is true for pretty much everyone. Of course, in Forrest Gump's case, it's exaggerated because not only does he investor in, Apple, and he has, he meets 3 presidents, and he wins the Medal of Honor, but he also affects all this other stuff. He gives John Lennon ideas for song lyrics, for Imagine, and things like that. But yeah, the message still holds true that everyone, no matter what they do in their life, and no matter how small they think they are, has a great effect on everyone around them and therefore the world. I mentioned that I like this movie a little bit more than Pulp Fiction, just a little bit more. Pulp Fiction is like number 2 in '94 for me, and it's really difficult to compare the two because they are so different from each other. Real sweet and sour, contrasting flavors there. The only reason I think that I like Forrest Gump more than Pulp Fiction is because it's just a little bit better paced. It moves with a little bit better momentum. Pulp Fiction has a tendency to kind of slow down a little bit too much at times. Still love it. Excellent film. And I'll be talking more about that when I do my Tarantino series in December. But when I first saw this movie, it was about a week before it came out. They had advanced screening the Sunday before. And it was a pretty emotional experience, you have Forrest's long-term relationship with a childhood friend, Jenny, who he's been in love with for a long time. And when you find out what's going on with her around the end of the picture, it's just like, man, this is really quite an experience. Forrest is a somewhat slow person. His IQ is around 70, so a lot of people, refer to him as, stupid, dumb, whatever. And he's got this little saying that his mama, played by Sally Field, tells him, which is, "Stupid is as stupid does." Well, I still think that a person who can't tell left from right is still kind of stupid. but yeah, he's got the perseverance of someone who doesn't seem to know a lot better. And the movie doesn't really make any bones about the fact that he's not entirely not entirely all that sharp. They do poke fun of him at times. It's not like he's the saint or anything like that. So that's good. It's got that kind of biting humor that a lot of Zemeckis' other films had. I think this is a key transition film for Zemeckis, in addition to also being now a Best Director winner at the Oscars for this film. He started making more overtly serious films, whereas this movie is generally serious, but with a lot of sort of satirical humor undercut it. And a lot of it is at Forrest's expense. So you had this sort of really wacky, cartoonish humor that was in all of his previous movies, and this film has its share of jokes and what have you, and laughs at the expense of the characters. But it has a more serious tone overall, and then from Contact onward, there's just, most of his movies after that are just very, very serious and played straight with only minor touches of humor. The photography in this movie is fantastic, really, really beautiful. It's the first movie that Zemeckis shot in the majorly widescreen instead of just, kind of sort of, flat screen, widescreen, the kind that requires black bars, to show the entire image. And it's just beautiful. Also, the score is fantastic as well. It's another Alan Silvestri score, who did music, of course, for Back to the Future films and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and some of his earlier films as well, or I think Romancing the Stone, he did that, and of course Death Becomes Her. He'd done all of them at this point. And the opening shot is again another really elaborate opening shot that Zemeckis loves, that travels all over this town square in Savannah, Georgia. The music is just great. I had this friend who I would talk about movies on a regular basis, who I was working with, and I had seen the movie before him, so I said to him, Kevin, make sure when you go and see the movie that you see the entire thing. If you're a little bit late, you see the dialogue's already started, don't watch any more. Leave the theater and go see a later screening, okay? I guarantee you're going to want to see the entire thing from the very beginning to the very end. And of course that's because of the feather. That great shot with the feather that you wouldn't, understand the significance of if you missed it when you see it at the end of the film. So a little bit more about the story. Forrest lives with his mother. She owns a boarding house, so that's how they earn their living. They take in travelers and what have you. He's got a long-term friendship with Jenny, who's played by Robin Wright in the later scenes. And he's just sort of dealing with being made fun of and persevering and what have you, and trying to do what he can with what he has in his life. And he ends up being able to do quite a lot with what little he has. He's not the type to complain, which I think is one of the reasons why conservatives like the movie so much. He goes and fights in war, and he makes something of himself. He works hard, and he's rewarded, not just by other people, but by God, as a matter of fact. When God wipes out all the shipping boats in the area where he and Gary Sinese, his lieutenant in Vietnam, were working, they're the only ship left, so they get all of the shrimp to themselves, and they make a whole pile of money. There's a really funny line during the storm sequence, Gary Sinise yelling, "You call this a storm?" To God, of course. Yeah, there's a lot of he's a religious person, obviously. He believes in Jesus and all that, and his path through life is contrasted with Jenny's path. She spends long periods of the movie in her adulthood away from Forrest, going through the counterculture and getting hooked on drugs and just traveling a lot and being sort of a hobo, and eventually coming back to him much later on in the picture. And I think that's another reason why conservative people like it so much, because Jenny kind of suffers a lot because she doesn't follow that straight and narrow path that Forrest does. Of course, one of the major reasons why he does is because he just doesn't know any better. He's got a kind of wisdom. And I was thinking about this yesterday and was sort of reminded of the mantra that is employed by people sometimes in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the strength to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think Forrest has that wisdom. As limited as his intelligence, people think his intelligence is, he knows when he's capable of doing something, and when he isn't capable of doing something, he just sort of lets it go and accepts it for what it is. Along the way, of course, he has friends that he meets, and he manages to have quite a charmed life. And of course, in the end, he discovers that he has a son who's played by Haley Joel Osment, which was like 5 years before The Sixth Sense. So yeah, really, really, really terrific movie. I don't know that Tom Hanks deserved Best Actor for this. I would have preferred it go to Morgan Freeman for Shawshank Redemption that year. But hey, it's not like he isn't good. But again, I usually prefer movies where the main characters are smart rather than kind of slow in the uptake. And like I said, a lot of the humor comes from him just not understanding stuff. But all in all, fantastic movie, definitely a must-see. Yeah, you'd be missing out if you decided to skip it. I don't understand why people really rag on this movie. I think they're just mad because Zemeckis won the Oscar instead of Tarantino. And Tarantino's great, and he'll probably win an Oscar someday. Pulp Fiction is sort of his defining film, but again, I'll talk about more of that in December. So there's my video on Forrest Gump. Hope you liked it. And I have 500 subscribers now. At long last. There's a link to the video that I just posted, in which I make that formal announcement and invite people to leave questions for Q&A. So head on over there if you want to do that. And I'll have a contest at some point in the future, but I don't know when. But my next video, of course, will be in another 3 days on the 17th. No, sorry, the 16th, right? And that will be on, of course, his 1997 film with Jodie Foster. That will be Contact. And of course, if you have any thoughts on Forrest Gump, leave me a comment here. Leave me a video response. I'll include it in my Zemeckis playlist. As always, thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye.